Tune in. Live seminar now.
Ladies and gentlemen, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Governor, how are you, sir? You look fantastic.
You know, when you're not good at imitating my accent, you don't do it.
Everybody's got to do it. Come on,
Exactly. Thank you.
We do it because we love you, Governor.
Thank you.
Guys, Arnold, guys.
Well, I was listening in the back a little bit what some of you had to say, and it is just so unbelievable. I don't think we have ever had that in any bodybuilding competition, to have that many champions and the wisdom and the knowledge of that many champions on one stage. So I really want to say thank you all from the bottom of my heart. This contributes so much to our fans that are coming here every year. Don't you think this was really terrific to have all of those guys up here and to give you the first-hand information and how to build a body, how to be Mr. Olympia, how to be Arnold Classic winner or Mr. America, whatever the title is that you're going after. But this is really, I mean, a cumulative kind of knowledge that is beyond belief.
No, absolutely, Arnold. There's no, rarely do we get this combination of not only top champions, but the years. 30 years celebrating the Arnold Classic, and you've always been a visionary. I mean, clearly you saw this coming years ago when you started over at the Vets with a few booths, but you knew you would expand it, obviously now globally.
Well, it was clear that Jim Lorimer and myself, we had a very clear vision where we wanted to go. And we always looked at it in two ways. One of them was to promote the sport of bodybuilding, to increase the cash prices, to increase the kind of respect bodybuilding was getting, and to have competitions like this all over the world. But at the same time, we also wanted to popularize the sport of bodybuilding for the general public, because we always feel like, you know, this is no different than skiing. You watch the Olympics and you watch the downhill race and the slalom, but not everyone wants to do that or is ready to do that, but people want to go and ski recreationally and just have fun. And the same is with bodybuilding. There's so many people that want to get into training and they didn't know how to do that. They want to be inspired. So our competitions was all about inspiring, and this is why we added then weightlifting, and we added powerlifting, we added the World's Strongest Man competition, and all those events. And now we have 78 different sports. And one of the things that we're most proud of is that we really want to reach out and promote bodybuilding and fitness training for everybody. So it's not just for guys like this that are extraordinarily strong and powerful and have a fantastic body. But what is if someone has a leg missing because they just came back from Iraq and they lost a leg and they have an artificial leg? Do we have a competition for that person? And we do. So that yesterday when I walked around, for instance, we saw people that had handicaps, physical handicaps, which really you couldn't call that anymore, because they were, like I was saying yesterday, clean and jerking like 315 pounds with an artificial leg. So it was really extraordinary. There were Special Olympic kids there that were doing martial arts. There was all kinds of people with certain kind of problems and handicaps that are included in our fitness movement and included in the Arnold Classic, because we want to promote all over the world the idea that fitness and strength training and all of this stuff is for everybody. It doesn't matter what your category is, what your color is, what your income level is, if you're handicapped or not. Everyone ought to have the right to get healthy and fit. So this is what we're promoting, and this is why we have 78 different sports. We have 21,000 athletes here, and it is really a celebration of health and fitness and everyone having a great time.
Absolutely. Arnold, lots of changes this year, lots of drama going on. As everybody knows by now, we had a split with the IFBB where it's now on kind of two different federations. Your thoughts on all the changes going on currently?
Well, you have to understand that when you think about what I just said, that we want to do bodybuilding for the mass, for the millions and millions of people in all the 200 plus countries around the world, then what we are talking about here, the competitive bodybuilding or the pickering that's going on between federations is kind of like the peak of the iceberg. This is like the top of the iceberg that you see. But underneath what is this huge mass, this is what the general public is, and they don't care about any of that. No one, when you walk down Fifth Avenue in New York and you ask anyone, do you have a major concern about the IFBB from the professional section and the IFBB amateur section have just now had an argument, and that Jim Manning is not getting along with Raphael? They say, what the fuck are you talking about, right?
That's what they would say, yes.
So you have to kind of like, when you see situations like that, I hope they get back together and all of this stuff, and we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that, that we stay away from this whole idea of punishing bodybuilders when they don't compete in this place and punishing them when they compete in another federation. All of this is nonsense dialogue, that you should always look for who are the best bodybuilders, who are the best weightlifters, who are the best javelin throwers, who are the best skiers, and not all these restrictions. Yeah, only if you don't compete here, and only if you don't say this, and only if you don't endorse this. It is kind of little thinking. I'm not into that. I'm into just promoting bodybuilding. It doesn't matter if there are 2, 3, 4 different federations and people can go around and all those guys can compete over there and they can come over and compete over here. Let's have a great time and let's celebrate the sport of bodybuilding rather than being so picky about all of this stuff. But you have to understand that I'm only interested in one thing, and this is to make this sport getting bigger and bigger and bigger all the time. And when you think about it, that when I came over here to this country, we had maybe 5,000 gymnasiums. And now we have, I think there's like 60,000 clubs that we know of, and this is not even counting now, places like all the police stations and all the fire stations and all the military bases and all this. So the growth of this whole thing, there's 200,000 gymnasiums worldwide. It is an $80 billion industry, and if you add the food supplement business, which is another $120 billion industry, you're talking about an enormous industry, growth for people to get jobs and those are the kind of issues that I'm talking about that is extremely important. And at the same time to promote also the professional side of bodybuilding so that bodybuilders can make millions and millions of dollars. My vision always was, I was always mad when I saw on television hearing, this basketball player was just bought for $30 million and this football player was bought for $50 million. I said, well, that's where we ought to be in bodybuilding. And so my struggle and my fight will continue on until we can raise the cash prizes and until we can have that kind of a respect. And it's an ongoing struggle, and I'm so proud of how far we have come, and I'm so proud of each and every one of those guys that have become champions, because not only they're champions, but they're so articulate in explaining the training and to motivate people and all this stuff. So I'm a really happy camper being able to facilitate and to put on this show here and have such great athletes around it.
Absolutely. Back in the day, you and Franco, many battles, which, speaking of which, he's here today and he wants a rematch on this stage right now. He says he's got the short end of the stick and he wants you, Governor, right here. Ladies and gentlemen, Franco Columbu. Franco. Gentlemen, pose down.
Come on, more energy. More energy. This is Arnold. This is Arnold.
How are you, sir?
Good, good. How are you doing?
I am doing very well. Yes, I'm just talking with your friend here, and he was talking about when he beat you back in the 1972 Mr. Olympia.
You mean 75?
75. I don't know.
Yeah.
You remember that one?
There are a lot of people, though, especially the short guys, they say I should have won. You know? And
They
I
should
don't
have.
even like that.
They should have won.
Arnold said, you know what? You'll never catch me. Next year, maybe I'm not here. You know? But I thought that we are here for an educational seminar to talk about training, nutrition, and I've been waiting and waiting, you know, to find things from you guys, from the new champion, some secrets, nothing, just stories.
Oh, wait a minute. I beg to differ. Vince Taylor, just a few minutes, maybe you weren't here yet, he gave the secrets to his success. Hamburgers, Coke, and ketchup.
Oh, I can tell you a story about hamburgers. You know, in Europe, we didn't do much hamburgers. That's an American thing. And when I came to the United States, Arnold started getting addicted to hamburger. I don't think he even remember that. And we would go to the store. I would buy steaks. And then when he went to the store, he bought hamburgers. Then he would cook them. And then he would do his things, you know, whatever he was doing. He would go and pull them out, burned. And I never got to taste a good hamburger because he just overcooked them. And I never figured out if he was doing it on purpose, that I cook, or, you know, whatever, he didn't care, you know. And I have to tell you one thing. For Arnold, they're always number ones and numbers 5. There's no number 2 too much. And the number 1 was, he prioritized the training. Arnold says number 1 is training. Every time in the gym I slow down training, he will say, Franco, get over here, do 1 more rep. You did 9. Well, I counted in the mirror. You're supposed to do 11. I thought we were doing 10, you know. But he saw food as more like essential, and you do have to eat when you train. And we were like doing everything that was as fast as possible. Like in the morning we did a good protein drink. And, you know, it's very interesting that we never really went on a strong diet. I think you people should know that. Like, we never believed in low-fat things. You know, everything was, no, you forget the milk. We want whipped cream. You know, and that is, that's how we trained.
But that's why we were never as ripped as those guys they were. You got to be honest, Franco, here. Okay? I know you're Italian, but I mean, what the hell?
You know, I did feel, I had like the skin was always a little thick here. And I never liked it. But then we competed and they used to give body parts. And then one day Frank Zane came to me and Frank Zane says, I beat Arnold. So you next. I say, okay. I say, we're going to compete 100 times and you will never beat me. And I say, even in your sit-ups, he used to do 1,000 sit-ups. And when I got to 25, I had aches and pains and I went home. And I beat him sit-ups, so after that he got used to it to lose. But, you know, I want to say that we didn't even know probably, I don't know if you knew. But once in a while we did mind training, you know, like talking like that with the mind. And I didn't even know I was doing that probably.
Take me back, Arnold, to your early days with Franco. Before the big bucks started rolling in, you guys were putting up bricks. You were building walls in California. Take us back to that.
Well, bodybuilding started like that, where people really had to work and had to have a regular job. And so because I was Mr. Universe and because Franco was Mr. Universe and Mr. Olympia, didn't mean that we didn't have to work. I mean, I remember Joe Weider gave us $65 a week. Okay, so you have to think about that. But we were very grateful that we got that money because it gave us a little cushion and a little bit something. But the fact of the matter is that, we had to go out and do construction work. Franco was a construction worker and he was a bricklayer and a masonry expert. He trained that in Italy and in Germany. So I knew that, and I was always kind of more the businessman. So I said to Franco, Franco, there's no reason why we shouldn't open up a company that's pretty easy in America. All we have to do is get to the city hall and get the business license and go to the IRS and let them know we will make an estimated amount of money every year and we pay the taxes and get our social security number in orders. And that's exactly what we did. We put an ad in the paper in the LA Times. And 2 days after we put the ad in, European bricklayers, experts in masonry work and stonework and all this, the earthquake happened in Los Angeles. And so a lot of the chimneys fell off and a lot of cracked walls and patio floors and all this. And so Franco and I, we got jobs day and night. I mean, all we did was work on construction and made a lot of money this way. And so this was kind of our beginning. But that's where bodybuilding was then. You had to kind of figure out how do you, and in those days we trained like 5 hours a day. Well, not him. He didn't like to train that long. But Frankie trained around 3.5, 4 hours.
I had to talk to people sometimes.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But so we had two different body types. Mine, I would always like to be a little bit overtrained because this was my only way to really get defined. Because like as he said, we were not on a diet per se. We were on a diet, but that just meant don't have desserts or something like that. But we were not, and even that didn't work because a week before the Olympia, we went to the House of Pies and had two cherry pies and all that stuff. So we didn't always have the discipline. But in any case, I overtrained, and that's how I got defined. And Franco trained also very hard, but he didn't like to train us hard. He trained us hard, but not as long, I should say. And his body didn't need it. But we were, had a great time being training partners. You have to understand that I come from the bodybuilding background and weightlifting kind of background. So when I met Franco in 1965, he won the European Championships in powerlifting in the lightweight division. And I won the Junior Mr. Europe competition. So that's how we met. So he said to me, I want to be a bodybuilding champion. And I said to him, I want to be a powerlifting champion. So we started training together when I moved to Munich eventually. And then I talked Weider into bringing Franco to America. So because I came over here in 68, so Weider brought Franco over in 69. So this is the great work that Joe Weider did. He did not kind of like just throw money at you, but he gave you opportunities. And he gave us opportunities, Frank and me. We wouldn't be sitting here if it wouldn't be for Joe Weider. He has really helped us. He gave us the exposure in the magazines, the covers inside the magazine and all that stuff. And he was an absolute jewel, and we were like best of friends with him until he passed away. But this is where bodybuilding started. We had to work, and we never were shy of working. On top, not only because in bodybuilding, but because we were immigrants. And Franco and I, we were always the kind of immigrants. We loved America, and we said, we got to work twice as hard as the Americans because we have to give something back to say thank you to America for receiving us with open arms and giving us all these opportunities.
Yeah.
Franco, how was Arnold as a bricklayer?
He never lit a brick. He was a helper. He mixed the cement, and with the wheelbarrow, he was very busy. I had to lay the bricks. However, to talk about Joe Weider, he was very generous. We actually started training, and when we laid bricks, one good thing came out of that, and that was we got more definition. And Jovita actually, Arnold started with $65. Then I got 65. Then Arnold got a raise. He got 85 a week. You okay? It was big progress.
He was bigger than you.
Yeah, it was big progress. Arnold was more the champion, you know.
One thing I can tell you is, I remember the routine that was here became kind of known because, so Franco was a very good craftsman. I was the business guy. I always was good with numbers. So I said to Franco, I said, let me work out and make the proposals and work out the estimates. So I started working and measuring things and writing down numbers, but all in German, centimeters and millimeters and meters and all that stuff, so that the people could not understand when they were looking at our paper. So then I said, okay, Franco, how much do you think this will be approximately? What do you think? Franco says it will be probably $2,000 or so. He says that the material will be $1,000. Boring, the wheelbarrow, and the mixing machine and all that stuff will cost. So he says, I think for $2,000 we can do it. So I would then go to the person and I would say, Franco says it is $5,000. And they said $5,000, and I said, well, let me work him over a little bit. They said, I think I can get him down to around 4. I said, but let me work on it a little bit. So Frank and I will get in the corner and we start screaming in German, das kannst du doch nicht machen, das ist doch viel zu teuer. Das ist nicht so eine große Fläche, komm doch Franco, du musst jetzt arbeiten. And this is how we were arguing, and they couldn't understand the thing we were saying. And Franco was arguing back in German and in Italian, and then they would go back and they says, okay. I say, I got him down to $4,000. So this is how we made up the estimate. So the Franco was very happy with my estimates.
But sometimes we did argue really. Actually, I believed we're going to lose the job. And we had like $3 in the pocket. I said, no, if we lose the job, you got to lower the price. And he was telling me, okay, Franco, I lower the price. He said, no, 4,000.
Yeah, exactly.
And he said, can you start right now? You know?
How did you do this with Joe Weider? Now, I know you used the same tactics to Joe Weider. How did you work this with Joe to get raises?
Joe Weider had different things in the mind. He would go to Arnold and never talk to me too much about Arnold was like the boss in that area. And he would say, Arnold, I need 10 articles. You do the articles with Franco, call Frank Zane, then we would call all the guys to the apartment and do crazy articles. And at the same time, Joe Weider, one time I asked him, I will never ask him again. I said, we have to get more money. I said, the money we get, I go Friday to Safeway store and I spend all the money. And he says, oh, that is really bad. And I say, why? He says, if I give you too much money, you get fat. And he's like, he had an answer for everything. And I will get quiet and say, no, Arnold, you deal with all of that.
You're absolutely correct about that, because I remember walking with Joe one time out of a temple, and there was this homeless person standing outside and saying, oh, please, help. I haven't eaten in 7 days. And Joe turned in and says, I wish I had your discipline. But anyway.
But
but anyway, yeah. So Joe was for me a little bit easier than for Franco to kind of manipulate, because the Joe I knew that he didn't have a son. Joe Weider had a wonderful daughter, but not a son. Eric Weider had a son. Ben Weider had a son by the name of Eric. And so I always would go when I wanted something from Joe, and he would say no. I would always go and say, Joe, I said, it's the weirdest thing. I sometimes wake up and say, I feel like I'm your son. And Joe says, I'm telling you, you're so much like me, eh? Those bastards, those other bodybuilders, they just take advantage of me. You work hard. Oh, Arnold, I really like you. You're like a son. I said to Joe, I said, I feel like a son. And wouldn't it be cool? I said, if I'm really your son and all this stuff. So, and then I would say to Joe, I said, look, Frank and I, we want to go to Munich for this bodybuilding competition. We need your airline tickets. I think, can you get the airline tickets? He says, now, of course. Why didn't you say so, eh? You know, and so he would give us the tickets. But then, a week before, he would just deny us the tickets. So Joe was, for me, easier to deal with because I always use kind of the emotional thing about being his son. So that was a deal closer.
Yeah, also, but though he said that you appreciated and he saw your potential that will never end. And, you know, it saw all that. That's why, and you caved him in, by the way, that's true. We actually did something that nobody does today in bodybuilding, and one of them was, we went to Europe and we competed like Mr. Europe in the IFBB and so on. And then we went to NABA and competed there too. And then we actually competed one time, the first time we competed here in Columbus, Ohio. It was the first show probably. We went to London and Arnold won the professional Mr. Universe and I won my class in the amateur. And we flew that next morning early and Jim Lorimer picked us up with a private jet from New York and we came here to this place. And all the bodybuilders were lined up. They delayed the show, and they were so happy that Arnold and Franco are not here. And then we show up from behind, and somehow I say, you go there, and I go here. And then every time I say something Arnold doesn't like to listen, then he switches it. So he's going like this, but if you start touching the bodybuilders, and all of a sudden they get the vibration. And they go like this, and they see Arnold sneaking in there, and I sneak in here, and they were all like this, and all of a sudden everything came down. You remember that?
Yeah, absolutely.
It was incredible that we were able to compete the same weekend in 2 different continents. And we were so hungry, we wanted to compete in everything, everywhere. And we never paid attention. And Joe Vida went to Arnold, I remember saying, why?
No, but I mean, I think that the other point that you were about to address is about the federations. Because think about that. I was competing in the IFBB Mr. Universe contest and won in New York. Flew over and a week later competed in the NABA Mr. Universe contest and won. And the next day, because of that private jet that Frank was talking about, we flew from London to New York and there we were picked up with a private jet so we could make it here at 5 o'clock when the bodybuilding Mr. World competition started, which was run by the AAU. So now you have IFBB, NABA, and AAU. And they won all 3 competitions, which was kind of the golden 3. To win all 3 federations where you could claim, and they said, no matter what the federation is, I won that title. And this you couldn't do today anymore because of all of the crazy restrictions that we have, that you can't compete in certain events, otherwise you get penalized and punished, to compete and you get thrown out or whatever. So, I mean, that were the big advantages in the old days that you could do that.
Well, Arnold, because you guys made it here in 1970 and your obvious friendship with Jim Lorimer at that point where you made that promise that you would come back and be a promoter with him. We're here today 30 years later with these great champions. I know you guys got other events to get to, so how about a big hand for Franco Columbu and, of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming.